Hey Facebook, it's Lindsay. I just want to touch base with you, check in, and do this week's Good to Knows with Touchdown Home Pros. For those of you who don't know, the beginning of June fell down my steps at my townhouse, which is unfortunate. I had just moved in. It turned into my 3-week plan. So I'm back in my old new house and am sitting here on the back porch because I am in the middle of physical therapy and learning how to re-walk. So I go into the office some, but luckily I have amazing agents and amazing office staff who keep us up and running, and luckily as a realtor you can work from home and get things accomplished. So last week, for those of you who are just joining us, or for those of you who did not see, last week we talked about starting a new Facebook Live series that we will also post onto our on our YouTube channel as well, called the Good to Knows with Touchdown Home Pros. And we did have quite a bit of response to that with what we should do or what questions you would want answered. Please let me know if there's anything else you would like us to touch on. If you have any questions, let us know during the live as well. If we can take questions. Feel free to ask questions while we're talking about this. But for those of you who are just joining us, today's topic on the Good to Knows with Touchdown Home Pros is actually sellers markets. Across the nation, if you've been watching the news, you have seen that we are nationwide, really most markets, in a seller's market. So what does that mean? What actually are we talking about when we say we are in a seller's market? And you as a seller or as a buyer, what mistakes in that market can we help you overcome with today's topic? So, what is a seller's market? It's good for areas who are in a seller's market because it tells you that prices can remain high, but as a buyer, that's a little bit crappy because there's less inventory or there's less choice for you as a home purchaser. On a seller's market or in a seller's market, Morgantown and most of North Central West Virginia is still in a seller's market. The nice thing about what we have in our market right now is that our prices are staying high. Hey Connie, thanks. I'm glad you liked the first topic we picked. So when you are looking in a seller's market as a seller, you have, this is the time for you to sell your house, right? A seller's market generally gets there because people are staying in their house just a little bit longer. Hey Connie, thanks for sharing this. Hope we pick up some more viewers. What we are seeing in a seller's market with sellers is a advice that if I list it, it will sell. That mentality that I have to put no work into this at all. That someone will buy my house because there are no choices. That could be really difficult, especially for sellers who are watching or thinking, but I've had my house listed for so long and I haven't had showings or I haven't had offers. Why is that? Our market currently is showing about 95 to 98% value on an offer, which is great, which is how we know we are in a seller's market. And our time of market varies depending on the geographic location you are in North Central West Virginia. So if you are in the Morgantown market, we're closer to an average of probably 80 to 90 days on market. That is an average, so some are longer and some are definitely shorter. If you have hit all of the points correctly as a seller, a lot of times in this market you are seeing very quick turnaround times. Like, get the house on the market and less than 2 days later we have an offer, or multiple offers if that may be. The worst thing you can think is in that situation, oh great, so that is awful, and we have completely just underpriced our house. It sold too quick. beggars and choosers and that whole situation. You want to sell your house in the quickest amount of time possible for the largest amount of money. And you want to be working with a realtor that you trust and who is experienced in working in a buyer's market or in a seller's market to make sure that you have done the right things to get your house viewed and the attention that it deserves. And also, so you aren't sitting around on the market wondering, well, I thought this was a seller's market, so great, why is my house sitting? So you still have to clean your house. You still have to get it ready for the open market. You still need to declutter your space. It's the time to go ahead and start packing up. You're planning on moving. So get things in boxes that you don't use every day or don't use regularly. Now is the time to put that stuff up and get your house ready for the market. Deferred maintenance issues. Let's be honest, as a seller or as a homeowner in general, there are things we forget about or we just lose track of time, and the air filter hasn't been changed, or the gutters haven't been cleaned, or the porch hasn't been stained, or there's an issue with paint or a leak that happened years ago and you just haven't fixed that tape coming off of the drywall or something like that. Now is the time to go ahead and put that money into it so you get it back out. And Connie's right. If it sells fast, it doesn't mean money was left on the table. If you've done the things you needed to do to get it market ready, you're going to sell it in a quicker amount of time for a higher dollar amount. Also, sellers, you gotta make your house available. In this type of market, there are agents sitting there staring at the MLS, waiting for the perfect house for their perfect buyer for your property. So if it goes on the market today at 3 o'clock and you have a showing request for today at 5, be excited. Don't be stressed and panicked, and don't say no. By all means, if you're gonna say no, it wasn't time to get your house on the market. If you are one of the sellers who thinks, I don't need a realtor, this is a seller's market, my neighbor, they have the house listed with somebody, I'll just put a for sale by owner sign up in my yard. There is a reason we have a job, guys. This isn't super easy. It's stressful. There's a lot of things that fall into place, from getting the property on the market and that sort of thing, and then moving through the steps to actually get us from contract to closing. You want to have a realtor that you trust and you have a good relationship with, so they can help you facilitate the transaction and make sure you're doing everything that you need to be doing to get the highest amount of money for the shortest amount of time. So, again, looking back at the sellers who are thinking, but I haven't gotten an offer and it's a seller's market. Now is the time to look at what you can change. How much time do you have still with your list agent? Are they doing what you're asking them to do? How is the communication with them? And what are the problems? What are the feedback that you're getting on why your house hasn't sold? If the feedback is, I don't like that the bedrooms are right off the living room, that's an issue that you can't fix. Every house has a buyer. They will come. But if the feedback is, the landscaping's too overgrown and I don't want to deal with it, or there's some dampness in the basement and that scares me, and more than 1 or 2 buyers have talked about this and that's been the feedback you've gotten, fix the problem. When you fix that problem, if it's something that you can fix, then that is something that you can move forward with and call that agent back. Your realtor can call the other realtor back and say, hey, we fixed these issues, all of the things that they had concerns about. If you have your buyer and they haven't purchased something else, please take them back. Those items have been taken care of. Now, one thing some realtors will tell you is that there's no problem price can't fix. So in a seller's got a phone call. So in a seller's market, you don't want to just price so high because you think, hey, it's a seller's market, I'll get more money. You still have to be within the realm of market value. And remember, Connie's right here with this comment as well. You still have to have it appraised. There is a random person, an appraiser out there, who's going to have to give their opinion of value. So if it's too far different from yours, we're not going to get it to the closing table anyway. And again, look at your realtor listing relationship. Who are you listing with? What did they tell you they were going to do for your listing, and have they done it? So we've talked a lot about sellers. We've talked about what sellers can do, or sellers' mistakes or misconceptions they have when it's a seller's market. It can be really tough, though, to be a buyer in a seller's market. And for those of you who are first-time home buyers, we're going to have tons of topics to help you out as well. But let's talk about a few buyer mistakes that can happen in a seller's market that you need to be aware of so you cannot be stressed. Let's be honest, buying a house, and something you're going to hear me say quite often on the Good to Knows with Touchdown Home Pros, one thing you're going to hear me say quite often actually is that, guys, I completely lost it. I heard something back there and now I'm flubbered. So, one thing that you're going to hear me say in a seller's market is that buyers need to be prepared. This is the highest, right? No kidding. Live, right? So this is the largest monetary decision you have ever made in your life, most likely, especially if you're a first-time home buyer. But home buying is a large monetary purchase, and that obviously can be stressful. You want to make sure that you're working with an agent who is experienced, who has the wherewithal and the knowledge to help you get through this market. When your realtor tells you, hey, have you been pre-approved? The answer needs to be yes, I have been pre-approved. It needs not be, I don't need to do that until I get something under contract. Let me tell you, from experience, working with buyers, nothing is worse than you being gung-ho about making an offer on a house, or having made an offer on a house and then going to the lender and getting pre-approval and realizing that the house you've been looking for, or the price point you've been looking in, is not one that you can afford or isn't feasible for your current monetary situation. It's best to know up front, I am pre-qualified for this loan amount, so my purchase price can be this. You can look $5,000 or $10,000 above that, most likely, and look at that as some negotiation room, but you don't want to be looking at a price point that you can't afford, because what you're going to do is set yourself up for disappointment when you realize that. So listen to your realtor. Go talk to a lender. In a seller's market, there is a good chance that you are going to have a multiple offer situation. A lot of people would say a bidding war in the turn of events when you're looking for a house. And if you are a pre-qualified buyer that has an offer that comes to the table in writing with a pre-qualification letter, you are actually going to find that you are in a better place for negotiation than someone who hasn't been pre-qualified. Furthermore, you need to put your best offer up front. In a seller's market, if you've been pre-approved for $150, that's awesome. If you are willing to spend $150, that's awesome. If you want to spend $135, don't look at houses that are $150. If you aren't willing to spend the list price, then look lower, if that makes sense. Just because a lender says, hey, you've been pre-qualified, or you can purchase this amount, does not mean that's what your mortgage has to be. You need to be comfortable. We've all heard people say that you get house poor, or someone could be house poor. That, that just means all I'm doing is working paycheck to paycheck. I'm sitting around and I'm working to live in my house. I can't go out and do anything. I can't go see concerts. I can't go on weekend getaways. I can't do things with my kids. You don't want to do that. You know where your comfort level is. You know what your lifestyle is. So it's great to be pre-approved with a lender and them tell you what they will give you. But if you're not comfortable with that monetary monthly commitment, that doesn't mean you have to spend that much money. All right? But you still need to be committed to putting your best offer up front. You never know if someone else is coming to the table to write an offer at the same time you are. And if you have your heart set on that house, you want to make sure that your first offer comes accompanied with that pre-qualification or pre-approval letter, and you want to make sure that it's the best possible option or offer that you can do right now. Doesn't mean you can't negotiate some, leave a little wiggle room, but this is not the market where you're going to get an amazingly good deal on a property. Sorry, that's definitely not a buyer's market right now. We are in a seller's market. Realtors, you're not being pushy. When you say, this house just came on the market, there have been 4 showings, I want to make sure that you know, as a buyer, that your realtor is not being pushy with you. When they say, I want to let you know, I have been told there are 5 or 6 people who have seen this house in the last 12 hours. If this is the one for you, we need to get an offer in writing. That doesn't mean they're putting, a knife up and saying, we're making an offer right now. This is your money. This is not their money. This is not their decision. And they're not being pushy. They're wanting you to know that there's a good option or a good probability that if you put too much time into thinking this over and over analyzing the purchase price or over analyzing what you're willing to do, what you're going to do, there's a good probability that someone else is going to jump in there before you do, and you're not going to get this house. So your realtor is not being pushy, I promise. So Connie says her personal when to offer rule for the buyers. If she calls you tomorrow and told you it's gone under contract, would you be really sad or devastated? If the answer is yes to that, you don't wait till tomorrow. You put the offer in today, all right? Now, when you make an offer, this is a legally binding contract. So if that seller just says yes and they sign it, which happens, rarely it happens, but it does happen, then you've just bought a house. So when you make that offer, you need to be prepared moving forward to go through the contract process with your agent and get to closing. The next 60 days are going to be very interesting, and we will have a good to knows with Touchdown Home Pros on that topic of what happens between contract and closing in the coming weeks. So if you are worried about getting into a bidding war or a multiple offer situation, you need not do that, especially if you're working with a realtor who is experienced. If you're working with a realtor that you trust, and even if it's a realtor who doesn't have a ton of actual realtor experience, they may have experience in buying and selling their own property, or their broker or fellow realtors have the experience. If you feel comfortable with that person, trust in them to get the job done. There are newer agents who are hungry and want to make this happen for you. They want to make sure that you get into the house you want to be in. So they are going to definitely step up, and they will get the answers to the questions that you have. It doesn't mean that they haven't been doing this for 20 years or 30 years and they don't know what they're doing. Realtors who have done this for 6 months or a year, they're good at what they do. Trust in their training, trust in their broker, trust in their ability to get you into, oh thanks Connie, trust in them to get you to this house. In a bidding war, there is something called an escalation addendum. Your realtor would know what that is. It's how you can excel your purchase price over a competing offer. You need to be working with a realtor who understands what that process is and how that looks. It is a thing. It doesn't mean you're giving away all of your information or saying, I'm going to offer 110, but I'm willing to pay 118 if anyone else comes to the table. It doesn't mean you're paying 118. You may pay 113.5 if we write that addendum to be $500 over any competing offer. It can sound very confusing, but trust in your realtor to get you the house. Do not be afraid of a bidding war. And if any time in this process you don't feel comfortable with it, tell your realtor. Say, I don't understand this, or the way you're explaining this to me isn't making sense. Your realtor, if they are good, is not going to get flustered. They're not going to get frustrated. Ask them, is there someone else in your office, or can your broker explain this to me? I just am not understanding it as it's coming from you. At our office at Touchdown Home Pros, we work as a team atmosphere. Our agents are trained by me, and I am available all the time for them. So if they have any questions, or ever anyone needs to speak with me as well, you definitely have that. And I know there's a good portion of brokers in the Morgantown area who have a very similar theory to that, or have transaction coordinators in their office who can help with that if there is some sort of communication barrier there. So, buyers, last mistake. You gotta learn from your mistakes. If you are in a seller's market and you lose out on the house that you thought was the dream house, two things about that. One, you gotta just learn from it. You've got to pick up and realize this wasn't meant to be. I am such a firm believer that what will be, and what's meant to be will be. So if you have put in that offer and you lose the multiple offer, then that really wasn't the house for you. And don't blame your realtor. Remember, your realtor is the middle person in communications. They're the person going back and forth between you and the seller's agent, who's then going back to the seller. So you want to make sure that you remember your realtor isn't calling to give you bad news. And trust me, your realtor is not wanting to make that phone call. They're sitting there like, I don't want to call them, because they're going to be devastated. It takes a toll on us as realtors also to make those phone calls. But in the instances where we get to make the phone call to you and say, hey, congratulations, we got this, I'm going to make the changes in the contract, send it over to you, that's the most exciting phone call. Trust in your realtor to get you to that point. If you have waited too long, nothing can be more devastating than you saying, I need to think about this, or in 3 days I need to have my parents come and look at the house. If that happens, hey Justin, how are you? If you are looking at wanting your parents to come see this house, or you want your friend to come in and see this house, and you miss out on the house, learn from that next time. In this market, houses don't sit around. So you've got to be prepared. If it comes on the market today, we got to go see it today. And some price points are different than others. Of course, there's definitely different times on market between all of the different price points in North Central West Virginia. So it doesn't mean that, every price point is the second it gets listed, I have to see it or I'm going to lose it. But a good portion of them are in a seller's market. So I hope that I have been able to shed some light for both sellers and buyers in regard to a seller's market and common mistakes and misconceptions that both buyers and sellers have. If there are any questions that you have, please, 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 please hit us up on Facebook at tdhomepros.com, or you can email us at info@tdhomepros.com, or call us at 304-322-4101 so we can tell you what you need to know, answer other questions in person, or if you have any other questions, other topics that you would like us to cover on our Wednesdays, Good to Know with Touchdown Home Pros, please let us know. If you want to put some of those in the comments, that would be great too. We hope that you have gotten something from our first Good to Know with Touchdown Home Pros, and we definitely look forward to having more of these topics and conversations with you. If you have any other questions, please put them in the comments and we will touch on those. If we get a lot of them, we might even start doing this more than once a week. But as we get started, we want to make sure that you know on Wednesdays that you can find us at tdhomepros.com and find out what's good to know with Touchdown Home Pros. Make sure down at the bottom to be notified and to follow us when we do go live so you don't miss any of the houses that we are going to tour on Tuesdays or any of the topics that we cover on Good to Knows with Touchdown Home Pros. Guys, it's been a real pleasure, and I am so glad that you joined us for our first topic, and we look forward to seeing you and talking to you again. Enjoy this beautiful weather. I hear August in our area is going to be a little cooler than normal, but so far so good. It's a bit of a warm one out today, but can hear the birds and all the nature, and I hope you all are enjoying it as much as I am. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks for being a part of our community, and definitely talk to you next time. Bye.